And welcome to this quarantine edition of AZ Sports Box. My name is Wills Rice, joined here by my good friend Caleb Bouchy. Today we do not have a whole lot to talk about, but we're going to get into some things, some recent events. We got the MLB and the MLB Draft. We got some great Arizona Coyotes news and some questions about their future. And then we also have a special guest coming up later in the episode, so you don't want to miss that. But we're going to jump right into things. Caleb, we're going to start off with the MLB Draft. Last night, the draft happened, and to kick it off, number one overall, Arizona State Sun Devil. You really don't see that a lot. Spencer Torkelson. Tell me about him, Caleb.
Well, I think this was obviously a huge deal for Arizona State, especially in their athletic program, because everyone thinks, college sports is only about football and basketball. But, of course, baseball is becoming really popular for Arizona State, especially since Spencer Torkelson was not the only draft pick in the first round. I believe there's 2 Sun Devils. But, I mean, this is exciting news. Torkelson, right from his freshman year, everyone knew he was going to be a special talented player. I think, one of the popular MLB agent guys said that Torkelson is one of these players that you won't see for another decade. He's that talented. He was freshman of the year in the Pac-12, and he broke Barry Bonds' record for the most home runs. And this guy, I mean, there's a reason why he there's this nickname that he has every time he scores a home run, Torque Bomb, because literally he has scored so many home runs. Let me look at his stats here. Torkelson led Division I with 25 home runs as a freshman in 2018 and followed that with 23 homers as a sophomore. And that's just his first 2 years. His third year, of course, in his junior year, it kind of got derailed because of the pandemic. But who knows what we could have seen as they were going into the tournaments. And I was really hoping they were going to get a College World Series title. But this is exciting news for ASU athletics. And the future of ASU baseball is bright going forward, even though they're going to be losing Torkelson and a bunch of star players.
No, absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head. It's like you may not see another player like him in a long time, and he's one of those guys that I've been to quite a few actually ASU baseball games, but it's one of those players in college sports you're really not accustomed to seeing at ASU. The James Harden type, where it's like when Torkelson comes up to bat, it's like if he doesn't hit a home run or, hit a hard ball into the outfield, make solid contact with the ball, you're surprised. He's one of those players that no matter who he's going up against, he was better than. And it's just for ASU to have an athlete like that is really unique and pretty rare. But now you said it, first round, number one overall pick. He's now the 4th ASU player drafted number 1 overall. So, ASU keeps adding to that list of their reputation of being MLBU. So it's a great step for the Sun Devils. Yeah, and Alakai Williams was late in the first round. I want to say he might have been the last pick in the first round. But it's great for the Sun Devils moving forward. And again, it shows that how next year's team is still going to be good. It's really interesting that they're finally building the program, and it's not just these one type players that are in, and then the program's not very good again. So it's definitely promising, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and I like the direction that Arizona State is going, not just building their football and basketball teams, but all other programs. And, I mean, we've already talked about baseball, but hockey is another one of them. Joey Dacord was a star player in recruiting. And I think hockey has had the most challenging in recruiting because of their venue. They had the worst venue in ASU sports, but somehow they're able to pull it off. Joey Dacord was one of their recent recruits from a few years ago. Literally after he was done, he finished up his last year at ASU. He went to become a backup goalie for Ottawa.
That was before the school year even ended. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was the NHL. It was like a week before the NHL playoffs, and they needed a goalie, and they brought him as a backup, which is pretty crazy. He didn't even finish the school year there, which is kind of crazy.
Exactly. So, and Dacord ended up having a pretty good performance. I mean, Ottawa was out of the playoffs, so I'm sure they just wanted to use him as a testing ground. But not only that, was another star player from another sport, swim and dive. I don't know how to pronounce him perfectly, so I might get this wrong, but Yosef Slim, the diver, and he's most likely going to be off to the Olympics. And then the track and field team, triathlon, winning the championship once again, like it's not really a shot.
3 or 4 in a row, I think.
I think it is around that 3 or 4 range. And yeah, I mean, the future, I think ASU is trying to build up to be an all-star sports team, not just football and basketball. And it's really exciting to see that direction they're going. And that MLB draft is just another prime example that ASU is heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and talking more about the draft, we have the team that is here, the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had the number 18 pick, and they took a pitcher out of Duke, a right-handed pitcher. I'm blanking on his name right now, but what I was reading about him was that he was actually one of the his name's Bryce Jarvis. That's his name, right-handed pitcher out of Duke. He was actually one of the best pitchers in the draft early on in the season. He had a little bit of a shaky start, and then ended up when the quarantine was going to happen, he was supposed to be one of the most exciting people to watch for the end of the year. He has a fastball that can reach 99 miles an hour. He's just an exciting player. But MLB is a little bit different, where this guy that's drafted, number one, Torkelson, for example, number 1 overall, we may not see him on the Detroit Tigers roster for another 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, it's really hard to get excited about the MLB draft. What do you think about the MLB draft?
I don't necessarily agree that the MLB draft should be taking place during the season. I think, like all the other leagues, they should be taking place when baseball is not going on, so during the off season. And I think it's a little bit of an interesting thing that they did, especially with the whole setup. I thought the setup looked a lot better than the the NFL draft, where it wasn't, Commissioner Rob Manfred announcing picks from his house. I never really liked the idea of them doing a draft in the middle of the season. It just didn't seem appropriate, especially when fans are so focused on what's going on during the regular season. It's if you want
it's hard. It's a hard concept, though.
What?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's a hard concept just because the players have to finish their collegiate seasons before they can get drafted. So you kind of have to wait till the end of the school year to get drafted. And by the time the MLB season starts and ends, it's technically baseball season again. So for college baseball, so it's tough to you have maybe a month window there from like October to November or something. But it's hard for those timelines to match up. But an interesting thing about the draft, I think this was the first year the MLB draft used to be 40 rounds long, which is just absurd. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this is the first year they cut it down to 5 rounds, which is a pretty drastic cut, if you ask me, from 40 to 5. But good for them. People might actually be interested in their draft picks if there's only 5 rounds instead of 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to kind of downsize it. But I think if they want to make the draft more popular, I mean, even though they do have a month's gap, it's not like they're dealing with a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Is 6 weeks. So yeah, I can kind of understand that. But I say, why not do it during the off season? I mean, they do have the Arizona Fall League and other leagues going on around that same time. So that's the only thing I wouldn't be shocked would be the obstacle. But I mean, why not go for it? I mean, if they want to keep MLB fans talking during the off season, that's the way to go, in my opinion. So.
Absolutely. And that's all for that MLB segment. But coming up, we have our special guest, the STAA 2020 Jim Nantz Award winner, one of my good friends, Scotty Gange. And for our next interview here on ASB, we have a recent Cronkite graduate, a future worker at 9 News in Denver, Orleans Firebirds. I believe you were an in-game host. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And biggest of all, the 2020 winner of the Jim Nantz Award, the most outstanding collegiate broadcaster of the year. We got my good friend, Scotty Gange over here. Let's give a round of applause, everybody.
Everybody, what's up? Well, thanks for having me, man. This is fun.
How's it going, man? How's quarantine been for you? I know obviously you've had a busy week and all, but how's everything been?
It's good. I'm lucky. I'm getting to hang out with family in San Diego. It's a nice night right now. This is the first time I've thrown on like a pullover for a little bit, so it could be a lot worse. I'm enjoying my time here, getting some time before, like you said, I'll move out to Denver. But I'm joking with my parents. This is like the longest I've been home ever since school started, so it's really nice.
And obviously the past, I mentioned the 2020 award. Take us just how was graduating Cronkite, and how do you think that Cronkite prepared you for your future at 9 News?
They did a good job. I think we can all agree Cronkite. And I think it's different that what Cronkite does compared to other schools is you have the opportunity to do so many different things. Like you can go into play-by-play, radio, news reporting, and TV reporting all in like the same 2 or 3 days. And so I think just by, doing a whole bunch of different stuff in Cronkite, they've helped, just kind of sharpen every single edge I could. I like to say I'm nowhere close to where I hope to be. And I think we can all agree with that with our own, in our own things that we're trying to do in broadcasting. But yeah, it does a great job just helping everybody grow in every way possible.
So the reason I asked about Cronkite is because I forgot to mention it, by the way, the first winner of the Jim Nantz Award from Arizona State University. So, he's not a huge deal, but he's on his way there. So, so I wanted to ask, I saw Jim Nantz say that, you found your voice at an very early age before he did. I think that's obviously a huge compliment from someone, that far off in the game. Where do you think you found your voice at Cronkite, and what exactly do you think kind of snapped the lights on for you?
I think I'm still probably looking for it. So it's nice that he thought that. But I don't know. I maybe in-game hosting, like you said, kind of a little bit what I did with Orleans and at ASU. I just got the opportunity, and I've said this a couple of times before, where it's, when football games are 60,000 people there, and if I'm speaking for 90 seconds in front of all the 60,000 people, I don't know how many of them were really listening. But if I can do that and not be terribly nervous, then doing something in a studio with 3 or 4 friends running production isn't too hard at the end of the day.
And I know one thing I've always liked about you ever since I first met you is that you're a very likable person. You always have a positive attitude.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah. So has there been like any negative conflicts that's been thrown at you, and how were you able to overcome them and just turn them into a positive?
You mean like recently or in all?
Well, during anytime through your years. Yeah.
I think everybody has a little bit of pushback, especially, from people maybe not in the industry or not trying to get into the industry. They kind of see it as more of like you're not taking real classes. You're doing this sports broadcasting stuff. That's so weird. And especially, with all of my friends, it's like from high school and from my hometown, it was way different. And a lot of them supported me, but, there'd be little jokes where it's like, Scotty, you're not going to school. I'm like, I'm kind of not. But luckily, this is what I'm passionate about. And so I know I'm not, staying up all night studying for my science test tomorrow or my midterms or whatever, but I'm doing what I enjoy. And so, I guess I've been lucky so far, Caleb, to not have many people scream hate at me about much, mainly just because it's been a lot of sports stuff that we've been talking about. Sometimes people don't like if I take a side on who I'm going to think is going to win or something like that. But in those little tiny things, I just got back to the fact that, I love this. And so there's not much that you can really say that would get to me.
I'm curious, someone who, it seems like you have it all figured out, as someone who's same age as you, it looks like you're already on the way to success. But I got to ask everyone, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel a lot of people come into college with this idea. I know I'm one of them, the idea, I want to do this. I want to do X. I want to do Z. What you came to Cronkite with your vision of what to do, did it stay the same, or is there a different course you kind of found through working in the field that, that kind of piqued your interest, that you kind of went a different way with it?
Yeah, everything kind of changed. In high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do until like my senior year. I never really did any broadcasting before school. When I entered Cronkite, I wanted to be a writer, a sports writer. I thought that would be a really fun thing. And because one guy told me, he said, hey, if you're a sports writer, then they'll bring you onto the shows as like an analyst. I'm like, whoa, if I write, I can do this broadcasting thing. And I had no idea. And then I got to school and people were like, no, you can just do the broadcasting thing. I was just, I was like, that's awesome. And so it totally changed, kind of 360 for me once I got to school. But it always changes, right? There was a brief moment in time when I wanted to do play-by-play. And now I just see that as more of a hobby, I'd say. I was kind of into news for a little bit. I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll go the morning news route for like a month or so. I was thinking about that. But it always changes. I just like, the biggest thing is just the passion of getting to tell stories and, have fun on the air. I really, really enjoy it. Like, honestly, I wouldn't do it if I didn't like doing it. Like I like the grind of it. I know you guys do too. That's why you're doing the show right now. It's fun to connect with people and talk about sports because sports are fun, and get to grow and be creative while we do it. So for me, it's just a passion, and that's really what I've been lucky enough to find in the past few years.
You mentioned the grind, and especially your last year at Cronkite, you were the head of Blaze Radio Sports. You were reporting for House of Sparky, and you're in-game hosting for ASB football and basketball.
Right.
So how are you like keeping the edge with a lot on your plate, and not like stumbling along the way?
Oh, I stumbled along the way. Don't worry about that. I had a lot of help too, though. So there's a lot of students at Cronkite that were helping out, like in Blaze Radio. Everybody wants to be a part, which was awesome. In-game hosting, the ASU game presentation staff made it so easy to where I would show up, I'd have my own stuff ready, they would have everything else ready to go. So that was just fun. That was like I was going out to play a game basically. And yeah, it was a lot of work and everything, but everybody works hard. And so I always think it's kind of lame if somebody says like, oh, I work so hard. Like I enjoyed my time, but everybody's out there doing stuff, and I had a lot of help along the way.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrogate you with all these personal questions, so
No.
I'll swing the route of sports with with the MLB. We don't know where the MLB is at exactly. With the NBA now potentially coming back, what are your thoughts of how sports could look for this upcoming season, with or without fans, but just having sports in general?
Yeah, I hope for it, right? We all do. I'm really tired of watching the old, best moments from 2010 sports highlights on YouTube. I really don't like watching those, but I've found myself doing that lately. I don't know why. But yeah, I'm excited. I saw the NBA has that thing where it's, 22 teams. They're all going to go to Orlando.
Suns, baby.
Hey, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I would much rather like to go to a sporting event with a packed stadium, but that's just not the way it's going to be for a little bit. But at least I see it the fact where it's like that NBA thing. How many times are we going to get to see a specialized tournament like that, or like a specialized mini season? So it's kind of cool. It could be better if you want to feel sorry for yourself, but I'm kind of excited for it. I hope the MLB can figure that out. But I mean, gosh, 22 teams all in one city for like a month and a half playing out for a shortened NBA championship. It's cool.
I was just saying to my dad, even for the teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, it's pretty exciting because it's like for the Suns, for example, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. But now with this revised 8-game season, it's like you have a shot. It gives you hope. It's like if the season played out before coronavirus, we weren't going to make the playoffs. So, it just adds some extra interest. Probably more people will watch, adding the extra 2 teams, more money for the NBA. So, it does make sense. And it's going to, like you said, it's really unique.
Here we are, in 20 years, people are going to ask, whoa, do you remember when the NBA had that 22 team thing all in the same city? We said, yeah, we watched that. We followed that. We talked about it right before on AZ Sports Box, that, the night that it came out. So I think it's pretty cool. It's a little version of living in history.
Do you think, and especially the NHL is going this route as well, they're going to be doing it a little differently because they're going to have 2 hub cities, and there's not going to be a balance out the Western and Eastern Conference. It's all going to be the same amount. Do you think sports leagues should continue considering expanding the playoffs like this, or maybe doing neutral site sporting events in the championship?
I think it's cool. I think it's at least right now, because, and we can probably all agree, all we want are sports. Find a way to make it happen. And the NBA, it's a very well-run league, and so I'm not surprised to see that they're going to make something happen. Same with the NHL. The NFL has the luxury of being months away from the beginning of coronavirus, so they have tons of time to plan. But yeah, the neutral site thing is really interesting. Who knows? I mean, and I think there's going to be a new normal after this. And so in years to come, maybe the NBA finals will find a game or 2 at a neutral site, maybe, probably not, but there will be differences that are happening now because they have to happen now, that in years to come are just going to continue that way, which I think might be pretty cool. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be fun.
So I got to ask kind of another personal question, but you have a lot of these accomplishments that'll, stack up against, I would say, any other college student. What's a goal coming out of college for you? What's one of the things you want to accomplish next? What's that next thing?
I just try to get better. I that's nice of you to say. You guys have been really nice today, so I appreciate all the compliments and everything. But you know, I just liked what I did. I'm lucky enough, you know, all the awards are so subjective, and so it's hard for me to really get so fired up about it. Like, you know, this weekend was fun getting that award.
Wow.
But you know, I know that I can hopefully can grow much more, and I hope to. You know, if I've hit my ceiling right now, I'd be really bummed. You know, I really hope that's not the case. So I guess once I'm going to work in Denver, just finding a way to grow in every way. I really, really, really want to learn how to be a better storyteller. So when it comes to structuring stories, and finding ways to, you know, every story is a case by case basis, but finding better ways to plan stuff out before, getting better shots, using lighting to my advantage, stuff like that. And I'm hoping that when I go work at 9 News, I'll get to learn some of that.
And I obviously by the time we release this, you'll know who our previous guest was, but we had Troy Lynch on.
Did you really?
Ago, yeah. And I know Troy has kind of taught you a lot to where you are today. Is there anyone like Troy, whether if it was at House, CSL, or Devils in Detail, that the advice they gave you that kind of you still take today?
Still Troy. A lot of, you know, the Troy, Blaine McCormick, Braden Bell, Weston DeWitt, they were both in Blaze, but really Troy and Blaine when it comes to broadcasting stuff. And then I have a mentor in Phoenix, Drew Soicher, and I've just learned so much from him. You know, just the other day, I talked to him on the phone for 2 hours, and it felt like, you know, 10 minutes, and we were just talking. It was everything that you can think of in broadcasting, and when I'm moving to Denver, like what's the right stuff to do? How should I, you know, approach day 1 and day 2, and just everything you can think of. And he's been so nice to me for the past, I think I've known him for probably 1.5 years now. And so we meet all the time. We're talking all the time. I've literally been texting him all day. So especially Drew, but yeah, when it comes to students, Troy and Blaine have just been fantastic.
And talking about figures you look up to, what was it like talking to Jim Nantz? Okay, just, you know, did a little bit of greatness just come through the speakers, or, you know,
well, you probably saw as much as I did. What did you say, Caleb?
Especially since you were doing it on the fly, you didn't know if
I had no idea
or not. So that definitely had to be nerve-wracking.
It a little bit, right? It was really cool, but I was just talking to Rob Warner on the phone, and I was saying, yeah, it kind of humanized him almost. I'd always watched him play on TV, and here he is just being a cool guy, right? Sitting in his home, just chatting, kind of saying congrats, and, you know, how much fun it was to watch all the great, you know, students from across the country. So it was really cool. And, you know, the guy's like, hey, we have Jim Nantz here to talk to you. I'm like, no way. And so he, you know, we've been in contact. Yeah. Excuse me, who's that? No, that would have been bad. But we've been in contact, and so he's really nice, and it's been, you know, that was a really special part of the day. And my grandpa is a huge fan of his, and so my grandpa called me, you know, 5 times during that day, just wanting to ask me more and more about it, which that was really fun. You know, how much fun he had watching it.
All right, tell me this. You said we've been nice. I'm going to ask you to pick on yourself here. What do you think? You said you want to get better. What do you think your biggest weaknesses as a broadcaster that you wish to improve on? I
think just the biggest thing is experience. I need to gain more experience. I need to tell and share more stories, because you know, I don't think I'll ever get to the point to where I'll be a flawless story or anything like that. But there's a whole lot of different ways to tell a story about an individual or a team or an event. And I'm just hoping to get as good as possible at that. So it's hard for me to pinpoint like one exact thing, but just in my story structure, in my script writing, I'd love to just be much better in all that sense, because there's so many angles that I can grow on that. You know, I think, you know, if it's a fun vendor guy, that's a story I can do pretty well. I'm comfortable doing something like that, but there's some other maybe types of stories that I can get much better at, and that just comes with time.
Wow. I think that's pretty surprising, because everyone that talks to me about you, I'm like, what has Scotty not done? Like, it seems like you've done everything. So that's pretty cool. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just there's a whole lot farther I hope to go. So we'll see over time if I can get there. I hope so.
And, you know, moving on, like throughout your years at ASU, what was like your favorite project or package video or story that you've done over the years, if you just had to pick one?
Just one. I'd probably say I did a story on a hiker. His name was Jeremy, and he had lost an arm in a terrible car accident or motorcycle accident, excuse me. And then he had a daughter was born several months after that. And he was battling, a drug and alcohol addiction. And that was like 4 years later talking with him. And so I hiked Camelback Mountain with him, heard his full story. I spent like 12 hours with him. And I loved that day because I got to learn so much about this amazing man who had battled back from so much adversity, but also, selfishly for me, it was a really hard story to tell. And I felt like I grew a lot, even just, in my videography skills, in my script writing skills, and how am I going to share this story of this guy when I have 4 minutes, which is a really long package. So that was probably it. Like, how can I do this to the best of my ability? And I felt like at the end of it, I grew a lot. Like, I learned so much from telling that piece and getting to share that piece. And he was a really cool guy, and we're still friends now. So that was definitely probably the most impactful thing I got the opportunity to do.
That's awesome.
And, kind of going to my last question, and Wills will have his. But, since now you're a Cronkite alum and you're venturing off into your own thing in Denver, Colorado, what advice would you have for future broadcasters, especially the incoming freshmen? Because I think last year we had over 100 freshmen in ASU Cronkite schools. So it's going to get overcrowded, and it's going to get really hard to find any opportunities. But
right.
I think for you found a way to create those opportunities if you couldn't find them. So what kind of advice did you give to them?
There was a few freshmen who I got really close with. What a great freshman class the ASU had this year. But the best piece of advice I found that I could give, which is something I did, was every time I would do something, especially like freshman year, like try to do as much stuff as you can, get as involved as you can, and then every single time, pick one thing to where you can make it better. Like, even watch it back and say, hey, I was kind of slouching there. Next time I go out and do it, I'm going to stand up a little taller. Not choose, I'm going to stand up taller. I'm going to talk louder. I'm going to talk slower. I'm going to word my questions a little better. I'm going to hold my mic with my open hand, and this and that and that and that, because then you just get flustered and you can't learn. And so it's kind of, I tell this to a few kids, like the 1% deal. It's like, next time stand up taller. And then after that, you're going to speak a little louder with more inflection. After that, bada bing, bada boom. And so as the weeks go on, you slowly tack those on, you get so much better. And it's also fun too. I know for you guys, when you do something on Monday and then again on Wednesday, and you see the one on Wednesday was better, it's addicting. It's really fun. And so that's my biggest piece of advice. Just choose one thing.
Okay.
Scotty, my last question, unsports related.
Here we
Give
go.
me your one quarantine project that you've been working on and how you've gotten better at doing it.
Okay. That's a great question. I pride myself on being an okay reader. I would like to be a really good reader.
You pride yourself in that, huh?
Yes, I do, because I'm always, I'm like, okay, I'm going to read 10 pages today, and then tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. I read 20 pages on Monday, and then I don't read again until the next Wednesday, So I'm really trying to get to be a better reader, and I'm reading books like, the John Wooden book, books from like sports mental performance coaches, because I love those, where it's all about the right way to think during competition and stuff like that. And so I'm trying really hard to, when I'm reading it, to write stuff down in a notebook. A mentor of mine in high school told me all about that. I've done it for years, but I've been inconsistent. So that's kind of my goal for the next couple of weeks while I'm home, is to try to get 10 pages and a couple bullet points in every single day. Because I just, I'd get to be such a better person when I do that. I'm much happier. I'm getting something done because I don't have much to do right now. And it's, I learned so much off these books, which I know you guys could probably understand. The Wooden book is just pure gold and how to live life the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it. Have you completed any yet?
Yes, I've read the Wooden book. I finished it, or I think I'm like 5 pages away, so that might be tonight. I'm excited. The Pete Carroll book I've read. I'm in the middle of Ernie Johnson. I read the book called The Alchemist. Great book. Wow.
Great book.
And yes, great book. And so I love the Pete Carroll book. I would recommend that. It was really fun. And then Yogi Roth of the Pac-12 Networks, he has a book too, and he writes all about his time as a coach at USC during the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush era. So that was cool too.
Yeah. Caleb, anything else?
No, I'm pretty much good. But I mean, thanks so much for coming on, man. I know you're so busy,
Oh
especially
yeah.
making the transition to the real broadcast world. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that how everyone views you in the Cronkite School, you're such an inspiration, and you're always challenging people to, they can't find opportunities, create your own, and that's kind of what I ended up going down the same route. So,
Yep.
to you, man, and everything that you're gonna accomplish. So,
Love that, man. That's so nice. Thanks, guys. This was so fun.
Congratulations. We look forward to seeing everything you're going to do in the future because we know it's going to be a lot. And the only thing that's left to do is like, Jack, give him the blue check on Twitter already. Just throw it in. Like,
Well, thanks for having me, guys. This is super fun. I really appreciate it.
of course, Scotty. Of course. We just want to thank Scotty for a fantastic interview, and we wish him the best in his future endeavors down at Denver. And that's one of those guys, you just have to root for. Awesome guy, and you just looking forward to see what he does in the future. But moving on, we are going to talk some NHL hockey. Got some Coyotes news that just came out. The Coyotes have a new CEO, Xavier Gutierrez. He's Latino, and he is the first Latino CEO and president of any team in NHL history, which is really exciting. And it's really cool with everything, all the social justice movements we have going on across the country, that the Coyotes are the first ones to do this. So hats off to them. Caleb, what more do you have to say about this?
I think it was definitely a great move for the Coyotes, especially since their hockey's gotten a little bit of criticism that the Big Four sports are the less diverse. So this is a good step in that direction for not only the Coyotes, but the National Hockey League to go in that diverse direction. And also, I think, reaffirms the Coyotes' future in the state of Arizona because they're targeting the Latino community and a Latino fan base. So I think it's definitely really good signs from the Coyotes. I wish the way they left with Aaron Cohen, I think they could have done it on a better note because it just happened so sudden. Kind of like the whole deal with Shane Doan, like, yep, we're done with him. So I don't know. I think the Coyotes have had a little bit of a not so great history of letting people off like that who have contributed so much to the team. But I think this is definitely exciting news for the Yotes. And I mean, I think cancels any rumors that the team is going to be leaving the state of Arizona anytime soon.
So maybe they're not leaving Arizona, but everyone that lives in Arizona and knows hockey knows that the Coyotes they shouldn't play their games in Glendale. And there's been talks about, a new stadium, maybe a venue relocation. What do you think is the best place? And maybe you think it is Glendale, but what do you think the Coyotes should do here?
Well, all the fans want the Coyotes to go to downtown Phoenix. I would be okay with that for sure. And, downtown Phoenix is kind of that bridge between the West and East Valley in the state of Arizona. The problem is the Phoenix Suns. We obviously know that they don't want that to happen because they want control of that arena all to themselves, Talking Stick Arena or whatever that new arena would be in the downtown area. So they don't want to share with the Coyotes. So I think the plan B obviously would be going to the East Valley. A lot more sporting fans are in the East Valley. I mean, that's where ASU is in Tempe. So I think that would be a good direction for the Coyotes to go. When they were moving in, I believe, 2003 or 2004, when they were making the transition process of building an arena, they were considering Scottsdale, which is like considered the Beverly Hills of Arizona. So I think that would be a good spot for them to go. I mean, Mesa is also offered, but I think Tempe is the perfect plan B, but it looks like that deal at ASU fell through. So who knows? With this new CEO, maybe they could relight a deal. But right now, ASU is already building a new hockey arena, so maybe it might not happen. But where would you want to see them go?
I think the idea of downtown is fantastic because it will inject more business into downtown. I know it would take away business from Westgate. I understand that, so it's a give and take here. But maybe this is just personal and maybe something I like, but like when they're showing like Kansas City Chiefs, when they're making their playoff run, they have those home games and they show you the view from the blimp of like downtown to Kansas City, and it's the football stadium. Right next to the football stadium, is the baseball stadium. And so many cities have that, football, basketball, and baseball all right next to each other. And I think it would be so cool for the Coyotes to have, baseball, hockey, and NBA just all right next to each other. I think that's would be a pretty cool thing. And I don't know if it's just me, I'm weird and I like things like that, but just having them all together, the business, and it's way more accessible for East and West Siders, and then maybe even some people farther north, and maybe some people from Tucson or down in Casa Grande that's a little bit farther. Maybe they're more incentivized to come up to games. But I think all of this, attendance isn't going to matter. The Coyotes need to win more games if they want to put butts in their seats. It doesn't matter where their stadium is if they're bad. Obviously, they're making the extended playoffs now, but if they're not good in future years, like, it doesn't matter where their stadium is, and that's just the bottom line.
I mean, I would absolutely agree. I'd love to see all the sports teams in one area. I remember going to Denver, Colorado, and ended up traveling to Boulder for ASU football playing Colorado 2 years ago. And then I ended up going to a Colorado Avalanche game and seeing the city, how they had the Broncos, the Rockies, and the Avalanche and Nuggets sports venues all together. It was just amazing. I'm like, I wish downtown Phoenix would have had that because all the sports venues are split out, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I don't know. I just don't think it works in the state like this. So I think everyone would instantly love having all the sports venues in one area. I mean, I'd be all for it, but unfortunately, business does get in the way. As far as attendance, though, I think more fans would be going to the games, even if the team was losing. But the thing is, they are operating out of an area that has the most less sports fans. The reason why the Cardinals get big crowds is that they only have 8 home games a year, and then plus 2 home games if they get that far in the playoffs. But for the Coyotes, they're constantly playing home games every week. So they need to find a way to grow that attendance growth, or else they're losing money.
I think it's pretty easy to say. Obviously, their attendance would increase if they came, to Scottsdale, Tempe, downtown, any of these areas. But like, my example is like, look at the Suns. The NBA is a way more lucrative business than the NHL. The Suns haven't made the playoffs in 10 years, and their attendance sucks because they're not good, even though they're downtown. So it really does matter about the brand you're putting out, the product that you're putting out on the ice or on the court or on the field, whatever it is. So I think now that the Coyotes have last year they were close, this year we're in the extended playoffs, you never know. If we start building up some promise of, not necessarily contenders, but, playoff teams that happen each year in and year out, I think the taxpayers will be a lot more willing to spend money on a new stadium for the Coyotes.
Oh, absolutely. I think winning would obviously influence governments to give the team the arenas they deserve. I think that happened with the Seattle Mariners.
Yep.
When they were trying to get out of the Kingdome. And they made a huge, miraculous postseason run and caused the city of Seattle to fall in love with them, and they gave them Safeco Field, which I believe is now named T-Mobile Park. And I got that all educated through the Sonic Skate documentary. You should check that out. I definitely agree. They need to play better. But, I mean, attendance does matter. It does affect how the team performs, especially when they're paying off all these players and coaches, and when it comes to free agency and grabbing those star players. So I think it's I don't know. I think attendance matters more because it affects team performance. So that's just my. What I also wonder is that what's going to happen to the whole Westgate Entertainment District and Gila River Arena, because the Coyotes are the only tenant there, and what's going to happen when that only tenant is gone? Like, we've seen this with. Was it the LA Forum with the Lakers, and they moved out. They eventually transformed it into a concert-only venue. I could see Gila River going that way, but they're not Los Angeles. So
yeah, Phoenix and Los Angeles. That's the thing.
And they're not even in Phoenix too. It's Glendale. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm really curious to see what the future of Westgate's going to look like, because all those businesses they're go down. They're gonna be in trouble, and they're not worried about it now because it's going to still be at least another 2 or 3 years before the Coyotes can officially move out there. But it'll be interesting. Maybe it'll be turned into one of those churches you see with Joel Osteen when he took over the Houston Rockets arena.
Yeah,
maybe go that direction. You never know. What do you think?
Those businesses could be in a lot of trouble, but the way I look at it is like, even with the Coyotes there right now, they're already in trouble. Like, those businesses don't do very well anyways. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's obviously a lot of those are private businesses and small business owners, but like you never want to see people lose their hard-earned work that they put into these restaurants and shops. But like I said, like it's not like that has a lot of business anyways. So I think the Coyotes moving from there wouldn't be it wouldn't lose Glendale like a majority of its like tourist money or, you know, like I think Glendale would still be okay. But yeah, it's really interesting. And you also just got to think of it when you think of all the businesses at Westgate, you got to think of like cityscape downtown. If they were to go downtown, how much that would improve, and you know how the businesses there, more businesses, you know, more people, more money, just stuff like that. So it's all give or take.
Yeah, it's such a shame because the way how Westgate looks, and I mean, there are some private businesses there, but they still have some national outlets still there that help gain enough revenue for Westgate, especially on nights of a Coyote game. But the way it's designed, it's like a mini Times Square, and it's kind of gonna all go to waste soon.
Yeah.
Although Torkelson Arena has that gigantic pavilion on the corner entrance of the arena, which is pretty nice. But yeah, who knows? It's probably and not only that, Westgate had some problems right from the start because they opened late. So yeah, I don't know. It just goes to show the Coyotes should probably never move to Glendale. But who knows? Maybe this could be a new direction that the Coyotes will be very successful wherever they go, as long as it's in the East Valley or Phoenix area. So I'm excited.
I think that is all for today, Caleb. We want to thank Scotty for coming on today. Thank you for your time, and we look forward. Thank everyone else for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you next week here on AZ Sports Box. Thank you, and stay safe during this quarantine.